Welcome back to the Visionary Podcast, the Bit Beacon broadcast, with your visionary host,
Ravenheart
and Kodaks. This is episode 21.
21.
And, we're celebrating, the Bit Beacon
turning drinking age.
So,
right,
here we go. Taking a sip of our very non-alcoholic beverage.
Mine's alcoholic.
Oh, so is mine. But, this is a PG podcast.
We can't drink.
Yeah, we can't drink. Let's jump straight into this milestone episode. Two milestones in a row.
Yeah. That weird how that works.
22.
Yep.
And then 23, which there's that song.
24 is a milestone because it's the current year.
Oh, that's true.
And then 25 is a milestone because it's half of, or
quarter
of 100.
Quarter of 100, yeah. It's half of 50.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about
basically
it,
every episode is a
milestone. All right, well, that's how we do it on this Visionary Podcast.
That's right.
Okay, let's jump into what have we been playing, what have we been buying. You cannot pin this on me this week. I definitely went first last week. Okay. So you're going to go first this week.
Sure. So I have bought, Taylor's going to talk about this too, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse released on the 3DS. Posthumously.
Right.
How do you say that word?
Humus? Yeah. Yeah, we should move on.
Physical on Nintendo 3DS. It's a port of the Pirate's Curse. And, but you were telling me it has the 3D what?
So Pirate's Curse, I believe, is actually originally on Nintendo 3DS. This is the original platform. It was an eShop.
Right. Okay, so this is the physical release of an eShop game.
Yes. Now, I believe this may have been also released on Wii U simultaneously alongside the 3DS.
Okay.
Back when this first came out. So this is Limited Run's admitted final 3DS game.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this, and it has the Limited Run logo on it. It's a numbered 3DS release for them. It's their fourth. It's number 4 in their 3DS series and also their last one.
Yeah.
So those extra zeros are not getting used.
Right.
But we're going to use all 3 of our zeros one day.
Ours are getting used.
Yeah.
We're going to have 999 episodes.
And then we'll call it a day.
Yeah,
That'll be our last episode. We won't. The counter just doesn't go to 1,000.
Yeah, it doesn't go higher.
I guess we could just be every episode after would just be 999.
Yeah,
over and over again.
Just repeat the same number.
That's actually a great idea if we ever get there.
Yeah, it's kind of clever, visionary.
Yeah, visionary, you might say. Yeah. We're Mavericks. Here on the
we're basically Kojima.
That's right. So what's interesting about this is that this is the first and only time Limited Run has ever printed a game, like an ESRB copy of a game that someone else printed before them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Prior to Limited Run's printing of Shantae and the Pirate's Curse for Nintendo 3DS, I believe it was Rising Star
that published
the physical copy of this game physically with an ESRB release many years ago.
Really?
Yes.
Did it have a different cover or something?
Same cover, but I think it had Rising Star's logo on the cover, which this copy does not.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the previous one did not
have the Limited Run.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Limited Run claims this was the last game that Nintendo that was printed on.
I don't know how
manufacturing line.
From my perspective, I don't know how they could possibly know that unless Nintendo told them that specifically. But there's no way for a developer or publisher to verify that they are the last one and what other publishers are doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Josh Fairhurst, I believe, it was either he said it or like their Twitter account said that this was the last 3DS game ever. So one of these cartridges for this game is the last 3DS cartridge ever pressed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Period.
That is crazy.
Another interesting tidbit about this is that apparently Limited Run had to go through Rising Star to get the copies printed in time because like things were so down to the last second.
Yeah.
That I guess Limited Run had like an allotment of cartridges reserved for their usage, but they had to like work with Rising Star to like make use of the cartridges because Nintendo wanted to go through the whole giant approval process over again. Right. So even though Rising Star is not on this, they still had a part to play in making sure
in the publishing process.
Yeah, that it could get printed one more time. So kind of a unique game for Limited Run.
Is there anything different with the game file, do you think?
My understanding is no.
Okay.
But it's the complete game, the bug-free version, no patches. It's all there.
All right.
And then what's of course unique about the 3DS version is that it features stereoscopic 3D. So you get a feature you truly don't have on any other platform.
Right.
Period.
Right. Yeah.
That's a pretty big incentive in my opinion.
That's worth having.
When like they're pushing out like the PS5 version of all the Shantae games, and it's like, well, it's not real. Is it really gonna run or play any better than the PS4 version did? This is not like these aren't demanding games.
I didn't even know WayForward was re-releasing the PS4 Shantaes.
Not the PS4, but they've been putting them all on PS5 over the last couple of years.
Okay, just porting them.
Yeah.
Digitally, I'm guessing.
Digitally and physically through Limited Run.
Okay.
And I don't know, what do you think about this? Like, to me, I feel like, they charge $35 for all these Shantae games that they've already released on Switch, on PS4, on PS5. And keep in mind, most of these are like $5 to like $15 digitally.
It was my understanding from back in the day, I guess, that Limited Run doesn't do like dual.
They do
releases.
Sometimes.
Okay.
But more recently, I guess it's been a more recent thing, and it's usually with like titles that they're distributing, but not necessarily porting themselves or like putting out themselves. Like when they do a numbered release, I think they try not to. And I think I would rather have the game on its own individually. But I think the price point is getting almost kind of ridiculous because if this was any other time frame where small print publishers didn't exist, all these Shantae games would get bundled on a single disc or a single cartridge and be sold for $30, $45 as a complete Shantae collection.
That is a good point. I don't know. I think maybe there is a positive and negative to having these small time like limited publishers, but I mean
Shantae fans,
the good outweighs the bad.
I agree. I mean, these games are thoroughly preserved at this point.
Oh yeah.
So like the excuse that like, we're preserving games, I feel like is kind of lost its glitter with Shantae specifically.
Yeah.
But it would not surprise me with after all these Shantae games are coming out that they will eventually one day put like an ultimate Shantae collection together for $60 probably on a single disc on a single. And you know what? We'll buy it again.
Yeah, we'll buy it.
We'll buy it again. And that's what they know. They know that.
They know that.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
To be fair, Shantae is one of the rare series where it really does feel like it holds their value really well.
If not multiplies their value.
If you have the original Game Boy Color Capcom release, Capcom published box release.
It's $700 used or loose
for
last time I checked.
Yeah. How interesting that Capcom published that for them right at the end too.
That is crazy.
But that's a little Shantae history lesson right there.
So, aside from buying that, I have been continuing with Pokemon Scarlet version, and specifically the DLC number 1 with Kitakami, the Teal Mask. I have now officially finished it, in that I have gotten the to be continued screen.
Okay.
and I'm eligible now to start DLC 2.
Okay.
What I have done is catch Ogerpon. Last time I spoke on this podcast about this, I was leading him back to his den.
Yeah.
And got to his den, captured him, battled Kieran, battled his sister Carmine, and some weird dialogue going on there.
Okay.
Almost like she's romantically interested in like the main character or something. Okay. That's what I like hinting. That's what I got.
I mean, yeah, I guess maybe depending on. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious if the dialogue was any different for like a female trainer. I mean, I feel like the games have always lightly skirted on like sort of a playful, like crush,
Ash and Misty style crush.
Yeah, never. I mean, it is. Carmine appears to be at least 3 or 4 years older than.
Yeah, she looks.
I will say in Scarlet and Violet, like I feel like it's the youngest looking protagonist in a while.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah, like it feels very much like you could be 10.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
like in terms of the appearance.
I mean, based on, I guess this is coming from the anime and you're going to contend it because you're...
Contest.
Whatever. But trainers start becoming trainers when they're 10. And you can't
it's
really
not a
be
requirement that you start when you're 10.
No, it's not a requirement that you start when you're 10, but you have to be at least 10 years old.
According to the anime, yes, you when you turn 10, you can apparently go off on your own adventure.
Yeah.
Right.
By yourself as a child.
I mean, the world must be so safe. Aside from like natural disasters, everyone...
Well, I mean, Team Rocket run around with explosives.
But it's like they just want to solve every problem with a Pokemon battle. Like that's the worst thing you have to deal with.
That's
like,
true, yeah.
Like your Pokemon might get stolen.
All right, there's a lot of philosophical stuff we can get into with that.
I mean, they seem like a pretty admirable, criminal organization.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they wear uniforms, like snazzy uniforms.
Yeah, in broad daylight.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do with that's what you have for crime in your world.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we have like the tracksuit look that some criminal organizations might wear. They just don't have like a letter painted on them.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Team Rocket.
Oh yeah, I miss them.
Oh yeah,
I miss them.
Yeah.
If I have a complaint about like the last several generations of Pokemon, it's that the bad guys have been not really bad guys and kind of.
I think Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon was the last time they were represented at all.
Oh yeah, I mean, to be fair, they gave us the bad guys in a big bad way. They gave us all the bad guys back for one epic showdown.
Crazy.
But I mean, like if you look at the Sun and Moon, the main antagonist group, they're just like hoodlums.
Yeah, that's right. Team, what were they?
Team Skull.
Team Skull, yeah.
Team Skull.
Yeah, I kind of like
I did like them. I did. And especially Guzma, I liked him a lot. Yeah. Like, his character was pretty great. But yeah, I just want, like, just people who are bad for bad's sake.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's, like, very...
Yeah, more recently, they all seem to have a cause. Like, some cause that they believe in or whatever.
I mean, okay, X and Y, like, sure, they had a cause that they believed in, but they were, like, ready to destroy the world over, like...
Yeah. That's still a cult.
Yeah.
But Team Rocket is not. Team Rocket is a syndicate.
Yeah.
They're out for money. Yeah. They're out for rare Pokemon.
Yeah.
And I do love that about them.
Yeah, just greed.
Yeah.
That's all they care about is more. Wanting more.
It's great.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to either bring Team Rocket back or someone on their level of just, like...
Yeah.
Just bad guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Just straight bad guys.
But anyways, so I got that far.
Oh yeah, back to Kitakami.
Right. What I was originally talking about. So I got Ogerpon, caught him, battled the two trainers, and then that was pretty much it. You go back to the village, and then that screen comes up to be continued.
Wasn't there like a little post scene with like Kieran in his room?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. That was after the to be continued screen.
Oh, okay, after the to be continued.
And so that screen fades away, goes to Kieran in his room, and he's got some weird grin, and he's wearing different clothes, it looks like.
Yeah.
and he's talking about how he needs to be stronger, 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 or something like that. Is how the dialogue goes, and then then it
He
ends.
seems to be losing his like sanity a little bit.
Yeah, he's.
I mean, okay. Do you sympathize with him? It's like you show up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, all of his dreams that he had come true for you,
right?
And it's like he's just got to sit there and watch it happen like multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess from that perspective, I don't really care for his character so much as like just design.
Yeah, I will agree. Him and Carmine, like their physical appearance.
Mm-hmm. I like Carmine a lot.
I don't know, the weird hair crossed in front of her face.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't a big fan of their design either, but like if I close my eyes and don't think about how they look.
I like Carmine. I like the way she looks. I like her personality. Okay. How she like
she gets flustered,
blows
constantly.
up. Yeah. Him not so much.
Okay. I think I don't know. I just like how they're building up to this like rival.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's earning becoming a rival.
Yeah, they're building an enemy out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of other rivals, it's like, and I'm not crapping on previous rivals, but it's like sometimes it's like I'm your rival because I am.
Right.
You know. And
it's
like,
yeah.
This one they've really built up a natural rival for you.
My favorite rival in any Pokemon game is he has an official name, but the one from Gold and Silver, the red-haired guy.
Isn't it Silver? No.
No, it's not. He's got another name. Ethan or not Ethan. He's something else. Anyways, he's I guess he's Giovanni's son.
According to the events of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, he is Giovanni's son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
mind blowing.
Those are mainline games.
Yeah, right there.
So I don't know. He's my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, no, he's good because he's a bad guy too.
Yeah, and he looks like he's just born
he's edgy.
Yeah.
He steals a Pokemon at the beginning of the game.
Breaks and enters into the lab.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's Giovanni.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Young Giovanni. Yeah.
Basically. But anyways, yeah. So I liked it. I liked the DLC a lot. I still need to go catch the Loyal 3. Mm-hmm. I guess that's kind of like sort of a post game ending, activity, I guess. But I'm also eager to go back to Paldea and start DLC 2.
Oh, one thing I want to mention to you is that in DLC 2, you will get to, near the end, you get to a point to battle with Kieran again.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want some extra dialogue, a little bit of extra lore.
I think you talked about this, but I forgot.
Okay. Well, put Ogerpon in your party.
Okay.
Just to rub it in.
Just keep it in.
No. Like, keep it in your... When you go up to the battle, you're going to fight Kieran again in the second DLC.
Okay.
Make sure Ogerpon's in your party.
Okay.
Send it out.
Okay.
And then just see his reaction. Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, if you want to be cruel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't care for him, so yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, and what's cool is that DLC 2 gets back into some mythology stuff having to do with like Area Zero and things like that.
So, in DLC 1, I've never talked about her.
There's a little bit, Briar.
Yeah, Briar. So she's actually like really suspicious.
She does have a suspicious air about her, right?
Because it seems like all she really does care about on this field trip is the what is it, Terra crystals?
Yes, yeah.
And like everything else is like very secondary to her.
I'm remembering now. What I told you to do is to go back. Oh yeah, that's right.
There's a couple things.
Yeah. Yes. After you beat DLC 2, you get the Terra. Bring that to the pool at the top of Kitakami.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's the Ogerpon thing, and then you mentioned something about the Hisuian Growlithe I got from the photographer chick.
Yes. If you have it in your party when you see her, you'll have the opportunity to see her kind of from afar.
Okay.
Oh man, what's her name?
I can't remember.
I don't know. I like her. She's cool.
Yeah.
Put the Growlithe in your party, and she'll recognize that you're using, like, that you have it in your party, and give some extra dialogue.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, some tips and tricks.
Yes. From the pros.
That's right.
The visionary pros.
Visionary game pros. So, yeah, that's what I've been up to. Or playing, at least.
Cool.
We have something coming up.
Oh, hold on. I haven't talked yet.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I have been doing plenty of talking, but I have a couple things to talk about what I've been playing.
Okay, yeah.
And I have another purchase that showed up this past week as well. So last week I was talking about I was playing a lot of Grand Blue Fantasy Relink.
Yeah.
Like against my will almost, or it feels like it. I've had to put Grand Blue. I mean, I basically beat the game, but there's like a lot of end game fun stuff to do. You know, getting the best gear. And
it's
all
over,
that stuff.
but not really.
Yeah, like the story is definitely done. I'm done with all the story, but like there's more game to be had.
Yeah, of course.
And so I've put that on hold for now because in like back-to-back weeks, Genshin Impact had their big 4.2 update. Vibrant Harriers Aloft in Spring is the title of the patch. And then Honkai Star Rail also had their big 2.0 update, which adds like a whole new massive storyline and a new planet to explore. So I was just like, I had been already ignoring Genshin Impact's update for a week to play Grand Blue.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was like feeling like the angst of like, oh man, I'm like falling behind on my other games that I want to play. So I put Grand Blue down and I've been playing Genshin. I'm like pretty much fully caught up on all the new content that Genshin added. And I've just now started diving into Star Rail's new update in the last 2 or 3 days.
I haven't touched Star Rail in a little while.
You really should at least log in right now, because for the first time ever in a Honkai Star Rail game, or in a Hoyoverse game, they're giving away like a premium 5-star character
Really?
for free.
Right now, okay.
Yeah, all you gotta do is log in and you'll claim it in your mail.
Okay.
Yeah, and it goes away in like 5 weeks.
Okay, I'm gonna go home and do that right now.
Because like, especially where you're at early on, that'll give you such a huge advantage, getting through like a lot of content.
Cool.
So yeah, generous of them. Apparently they did it because they won Game of the Year on Apple, like the user voted thing.
Oh, okay.
They won Game of the Year on the Google Play voted thing, and because they won Mobile Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
Okay.
So because it had like a triple, they're like, okay, everyone gets a
5-star,
like something that they've never done that in Genshin Impact.
They're on cloud 9.
Yeah, they've never given that away. They hit 100 million downloads. They're just like, let's go.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I do recommend logging in the very near future to pick that up. Dr. Ratio is his name. The character's name.
Gotcha.
I
think, have I seen him?
No, you have not met him. He's relatively new to the story.
Gotcha.
But you can still get him before you get to his story. And then, aside from what I've been playing, this came out about 2 weeks ago, but Target finally just now got around to delivering my copy. It is Apollo Justice Ace Attorney Trilogy. So this is the 4th, 5th, and 6th Ace Attorney games in one collection on Nintendo Switch. So this was what I had mentioned earlier several episodes ago, where Capcom wasn't going to do a physical release originally. Then they changed their mind, but only for Switch only. Originally, I was going to have to import an Asia English copy or something like that in order to have a physical copy. But now I got that sweet teen-rated copy by the ESRB.
Yep.
It's weird, like the Asia copies, they don't have any ratings on them. Yeah. And the cover is clean.
Yeah, I know.
And I like that, but at the same time, I kind of want that ESRB logo.
Well, if you're going for North American Library, that's essential.
I mean, there are early limited run games that are North American games that did not have the rating on them.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
well, I don't think they were rated.
they had the digital rating.
Oh, okay, that's
But
right.
yeah, so basically Sony said, sure, you can print copies. And then at some point, a year or two into limited run doing its thing, the ESRB stepped in and
Yeah.
said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I remember hearing limited run complaining about that they had to spend now thousands of dollars to
Yeah.
get games rated. And of course it came out of the developers'
Right.
budget,
Right.
or their net proceed.
Right. I mean, limited run at least afforded developers the, favor of paying it for them up front.
Right.
And then,
taking it out of their profits later.
because that would kind of.
Oh yeah, that would just stop so many
Yeah.
developers in their track. Oh, I got to pay $4,000, $5,000.
Yeah.
It's like, forget it then.
Sorry, can't. So Apollo Justice. So that's not Phoenix Wright stuff. That's Apollo
it's
Justice.
weird because I think, okay, Ace Attorney 4 is like just Apollo Justice. I think Ace Attorney 5 is both of them. And then I think Ace Attorney 6 is both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And what's cool about this is it also includes like all the DLC chapters that were originally like DLC on the 3DS. They've all been packed in here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a new like art library with like all the like special celebratory illustrations they maybe put out upon the game's release and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's 175 music tracks that you can play and peruse at your leisure. And there's an animation studio that lets you like play all the characters like objection.
Oh yeah, cool.
Stuff like that. So
oh dude, I want that. I really really need that.
Yeah, I had ordered this a while ago, and Target like they delayed my copy. Like for a while it was like, we don't know when we're gonna have it, and I was like, oh my god, are they like even gonna get it to me?
Yeah.
And then finally like a release date popped up on my order, but it was like 2 weeks. So either Capcom didn't send out enough copies, or they sent their copies to only certain retailers initially, and then other retailers got their copies later. But yeah, I would not expect this to have a Mondo size run, but I don't necessarily think it's like going to be unavailable like in the very near future or anything.
Okay.
So I mean, you probably got a few months to still get this at MSRP, I think. Before
is it on the shelf at Target?
I don't know. I ordered it online.
Okay.
I was in there recently. I did not see Ace Attorney on the shelf, but you know what I did see at Target not too long ago?
What?
The $100 copy of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did have some inside Target, which was interesting. Because I remember thinking, oh, you're not going to see this at normal retail. You might see it at GameStop, but sure enough, there it was at Target. It was behind the glass, though, like with the copies of the Switch unit itself.
Okay. I might have to go pick that up. I know it's $100, but
yeah. I think it's technically $94.99.
Okay.
Yeah.
$100
before tax. Yeah. Okay, we want to jump into some news now, or
we haven't talked about what we're up to.
Yeah, we have 2 other things we need to talk about.
So jumping ahead.
I'm excited. I'm excited, guys.
So we are going to be going to Pokemon Go Sinnoh Tour. At the Rose Bowl in Los Angeles.
Pasadena.
But same thing.
Niantic is referring to this as Go Tour Los Angeles, basically.
Right. So that'll be nice.
That's this weekend.
Yeah. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Well, Saturday and Sunday are the days where you can go in person to the Rose Bowl if you have a ticket for the respective day.
Yeah.
Friday is like an add-on day where you can play, like the spawns will be, I guess, like they
just
are
around town.
Yeah, around LA and apparently Orange County too.
Yeah, which is nice.
And then Saturday is the first day that you can go to the in-person event, and that's where the special research and stuff will be. And where, of course, the huge concentration of players will be.
Right.
And then Sunday, you can also do that depending on which day. You can't do both days, but what you can do is add on the opposite day to be the city experience.
Yeah.
Where you can get the spawns like you could on Friday.
Right.
Of course, that's an optional $20 purchase.
Right.
We will be doing the main event on Saturday.
Yep.
And then we've opted to do the Sunday city event.
Yep.
with a couple friends of ours. We're actually going to be staying in Pasadena near the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
We'll drive out there Friday night. Wake up early.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what entry is going to be like at the Rose Bowl. I don't know, like security. Is security going to be a thing? Are they just going to let people in willy-nilly?
Yeah.
There's no check-in barcode?
They should at least have like some blurb or something telling you what to expect and what not to bring.
They do have a FAQ on their website. They do list like a list of prohibited items.
Okay.
Which we talked about some of those earlier.
Well, if they list prohibited items, that means there is some kind of check, right?
I guess, yeah. I don't really know but there's no like, it doesn't talk about like showing a ticket anywhere because we haven't got any kind of ticket beyond like our email confirmation.
Yeah, right.
It just says show up to the Rose Bowl and gameplay elements will be live for you, when you get there.
Right.
So I'm curious, is there going to be some kind of entrance? Is there going to be some kind of way that they're going to be like checking that people should be there or not?
Yeah.
I don't really know. The only thing that there's like a check-in for is if you bought the t-shirt.
Right.
There's like a code for you to scan when you go to pick up your t-shirt.
Right. I'm excited. I'm not looking forward to how stringent some of these regulations are looking at all.
Myself and a couple of our other friends, we went to the one in Vegas last year for the Hoenn tour.
Right.
And it was kind of a mess. But that was because it was in a public park where a bunch of thousands and thousands of looky-loos showed up.
Yeah.
And basically messed up the cell towers.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully by having it in a restricted area, it won't get like that.
Yeah.
I've heard Sam, our friend, told us that reception at the Rose Bowl is normally quite bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's likely that they'll be putting up temporary cell towers.
Hopefully.
I mean, they did at last year's event, but they just didn't bring enough.
Oh, okay.
They got overloaded. So hopefully it's a smooth experience. Hopefully they learn from last year's event.
Right.
And that way
For
we
real.
all have a good time. We were looking at a lot of rain on that Saturday in Pasadena.
Yeah.
And now, thankfully, that rain has kind of moved away from Saturday and into Sunday now. Hopefully it stays that way because...
The Sunday people are screwed.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's looking that way. Unless the rain just keeps moving back in days.
Yeah.
But we'll have a little... We'll be dealing with that when we're trying to do the city kind of event.
For sure.
But I think we were talking about maybe all going to like a mall or something nearby.
Yeah, or you could just stay in the car and move from one point to the next.
It's going to be burning a lot of gas.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an option.
It's an option.
For not...
I don't know. I feel like I'd rather not be driving around in the rain trying to play Pokemon Go at the same time.
Whatever, just an idea ahead.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's our big event coming up. I'm excited that you're coming with us this year.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm stupefied that this is actually happening relatively close to the previous year's event. When you think LA to Vegas, that's pretty close geographically.
Yeah.
Normally these events seem to jump around to like a...
Well, if you look at the Niantic page, there's a bunch of other events going on in Dubai and one in Taiwan.
There's like Safari Zone events,
Right.
which are not on the level of this. This is basically... It may as well be a Go Fest.
Yeah, right.
It's of that same level.
Yeah. I know, I remember. I mean, not really, because I didn't go to the last one.
Right.
But wait, wasn't there a Johto tour? There was.
Well, so before last year, the Kanto and Johto tours were just global, one day only kind of, or one weekend only kind of events.
Right.
And so now what they have, starting with the Hoenn tour last year, is you have the in-person event one weekend, and then the following weekend is a global event.
Right. Right. Are they going to do that?
Yeah, they are doing that again this year. So if you're really committed, you got to commit to 2 weekends in a row of Pokemon Go.
But, I mean, the second weekend is kind of just at your leisure.
I mean, yeah, I think there might be some special research that's only available the second weekend. You know, so like if you're doing the in-person event, you probably also want to do the next weekend if you're like a really hardcore Pokemon Go person.
Right.
But I mean, if you get all your shinies and stuff...
I will be playing both weekends, even if I do get my shinies, because I do want to complete that stuff, like as much as I can.
So yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that next week. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some on maybe some live recordings on location.
Yeah. Oh yeah, some photos or something.
Yeah. And then I think we're gonna jump into your weekly update for Seraphim.
Yep. So this week I actually don't have a diary entry to read, so I'm just gonna jump into what I've been working on all week. So last week I talked about how I was working on the intro, the gameplay intro,
Yeah.
which in my design documentation I've separated cutscenes from cinematics. They're like two different things.
Okay.
Cinematics take place in the map scene where they have their own, like, they're scored with their own music track and stuff.
Okay.
Whereas cutscenes take place in the gameplay scene.
Okay.
And they're generally smaller, more of a local animation region, I guess. So I kind of divide them that way.
All right.
I'm not saying that those are the universal definitions of the two words, but that's the terminology I've kind of
Wait,
attributed.
one more time. Cutscene is in the map,
No, cutscenes are in the gameplay.
in the level, and then
Yeah, and then cinematics are in the map.
cinematics are in the map.
And
Okay.
there are, I guess you'd say there's 5 cinematics in the game.
Okay. So when there's a cutscene during gameplay, what are you envisioning? Like the enemies stop and then the cutscene plays out, or like?
As it sits right now, when you start a new world in Seraphim, one of the 4 worlds, it'll open up with a cinematic in the map scene.
That makes sense.
Because you will be in the map scene when that happens. And then when you start the first level of that world, it will come in with an intro.
Okay.
Like an intro animation. That will be a cutscene.
Okay.
And that will be in the gameplay scene.
Okay, gotcha. So it's almost like they feed into each other.
Exactly. Any other animations that may take place, like during boss fights or stuff like that, I just call those animations.
Okay.
But anyway, so the cutscene, the intro for World 1, is what I've been working on modularizing so that it can be like all of its game object group and all of its data, as well as accompanying scripts and stuff, can be spawned in or instantiated into the gameplay scene and then deleted so that it is only in physical memory when it needs to be there. And I was also talking last week about how my resources.load call for the specific language of the opening credits textures was not working, whereas I had resources.load working all over the game elsewhere.
Okay.
So that's still a problem. I didn't fix that.
Okay.
But I did pretty much basically get the entire intro modularized, with the exception of that.
Okay.
Now, one part of that is that the player object, the main character object, is still running on the old animation system.
Okay.
I think it was just called animation component. Now we have Mechanim in Unity, which is the modern animation system. So that needs to be converted. Oof. And that kind of does, yeah. Well, I don't have to remake any of the animations because the animation clips all still exist.
Okay.
And those can go right into Mechanim. But the programming of it, like the cues to start certain animation clips, that's all going to get remade.
Okay.
I'm doing a lot of that because if I'm going to comb through the game and do all this modularizing everything, I'm going to replace all the old components. Okay. Like, this is my time to do that.
Right. You don't want to put it together and then have to take it apart again.
Exactly. And I could release it, I'm sure, so long as I don't update the engine. I could just release it with the old components, but that's going to be a big problem when I try to release on future consoles or I try to start a sequel.
Right.
Because now all that's deprecated and
Seraphim
now I have
2.
Yeah.
The quest for more money.
No,
that's a Spaceballs joke.
Oh, yeah. That's not the title.
No, I know, it's not.
But you derailed me now.
I'm sorry.
So that's what I've been working on. It is modularized. I finished doing that for the intro. So that system that handles that I just built is going to handle all the cutscenes. So they're all, from this point forward, going to be built modularized.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm not interrupting a train of thought right
No.
now, am I? Okay.
Go for it.
Now, during gameplay, from what I remember of the Seraphim I played at this point, years ago,
Yeah.
like when you fire off a shot to like hit the enemies, right?
Yeah.
There's not like a reaction from the player character per se.
Like animation-wise?
Yeah. It's sort of just kind of doing like an idle animation, right?
Correct, yeah. From normal, like on a normal basis. Now, when you shoot an enemy and achieve the stage objective, like you stage clear, he does have like a thing where he puts both fists in the air.
Okay. And I know like when you use your super.
Yeah.
Or like
also when you hold L to use your special shots, which are your limited shots, he like puts his guns up.
Okay.
As you're holding L.
Oh,
and
okay.
if you release L, he puts his arms back down.
His arms back down. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So you do have some sort of like.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot of other examples.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So in this quest to modularize everything that's already been built in the gameplay scene, here's just to kind of recap what's done. All the shots, all 5 types of shots, are modularized 100%. Every enemy, every regular enemy, is modularized 100%. All the items that fly by, the fallen matter, which are those pink diamond-shaped things that explode like grenades, those are modularized. The reflectors and the sphere clusters that shoot that beam when you fire them, that stuff is not done yet.
Okay.
But everything that basically spawns around the character and flies past is all done.
Okay.
Including the character's shots.
So now you can like really turn those things off and on whenever you want to.
Yeah, I can basically write a level and assign, one by one each enemy, and it'll play all those enemies in that order.
Okay.
Or I have they're called waves that I plug in. Oh yeah, we have car alarms.
Okay, we got car alarms. We got Rick's stomach.
Oh yeah, sorry, I haven't eaten today yet.
You're having bread right now.
Liquid bread. Crap. You always derail me when you do that. What was I talking about?
What custom levels?
Okay, yeah.
You can essentially.
So back when I first started this, before the hiatus, I built a level manager, a new one, that handles waves that I can just plug in.
Okay.
So I have the waves, and I have the enemy prefabs. They get plugged into the waves, so I can build a wave, put it in the manager, and it'll spawn that wave. So I could put 8 enemies in that wave, put that wave in slot 1, and all 8 of those enemies will spawn at once. And I built myself options to put like second delays on certain ones, so I can scatter them. So you won't see it as waves. Okay. I can kind of like stagger them.
Remind me, in the game that I played originally, the game ends by the Seraph essentially not being able to keep up, and the player not being able to keep up. Right. The Seraph loses all of his lives and it's game over, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, when you're going through these levels, does every level end with a game over?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. That's still
an intentional.
Yeah, that's still the design.
Okay.
Now, what happens if you're playing through a level in Seraphim? You'll have a stage objective at the beginning, which will also be given to you on the map screen, and then you'll go into the level. You'll try to achieve that stage objective. It might be kill 300 enemies or whatever.
Okay.
If you meet that objective requirement, you'll see the stage clear animation play where the game slows down and big
stage clear.
Yeah. I made a bit. Everything's big.
Yeah.
And then it'll just continue into what's called overtime.
Okay. Then you just try to rack up your score.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So what I'm gonna be looking at next to modularize, what I have left, I should talk about. The pause menu. Object group, that whole thing is not modularized yet. that's probably going to be my next thing. I had it open last night and was looking through it. The reflectors, like I said, that whole system, I'm probably, you're going to hate me for this, but I'm going to probably redesign the reflectors again.
Okay.
They take up way too much of the screen space.
Okay.
I'm going to get something skinnier,
Okay.
but thick.
Okay.
To where it's like 3D geometry and you clearly visible, and put a texture on it that's clearly like reflective.
I mean, have you ever thought that maybe, and you know, I'm not trying to sound critical or anything,
Yeah.
but like the reflector was like originally a quick fix to make the game more challenging.
Right.
And that maybe you could come up with something better at this point?
Yeah. I'll give that more thought, but I'm trying really hard not to change anything.
Okay, that's, you know what, maybe the sequel.
Yeah.
Maybe the next game.
But what it has always been is like a visual eyesore, and it has also been confusing. Like the
people don't get what it is at first.
The player communication is not there.
Okay.
And it needs to be.
And I feel like sometimes it's almost like unfairly random how they get positioned. I think you did address that, didn't you, at some point? I feel like sometimes the reflectors could get like almost right next to each other and like block off a whole quadrant of your screen. There was like nothing you could do.
I think I did fix that. You're right.
Okay.
I made it so that there had to be a minimum of one space between them.
Okay.
I might just rewrite all that stuff because all that code is like some of the oldest code in the game.
Yeah.
Because that, if I can just fix all that.
Okay.
I'll just the reflectors might be ground up redo.
Okay.
And then so I have the reflectors. I have the Seraph player object that is the most daunting thing to redo because that includes the health meter on screen, all the HUD, the ammo meter, all that stuff.
Tied to the player model.
It's all part of the same group. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I might break that up because honestly, it probably should be broken up because not all that stuff needs to be on screen at once.
I mean, I just think you could do like maybe if it was broken up, you could maybe do like some weird stuff with it. You know, like I'm thinking of games like Nier Automata where like the UI starts like playing with the player almost, you know, and like deceiving you, and like your health is going backwards, and you know, weird things like that.
That's funny you talk about that because there is some of that kind of thinking going on in World 3 of this game. You're right. I probably could do something crazy.
Okay.
But that is like the most daunting thing. And then aside from that, while all the power-up objects are already modularized, like they can spawn and you can hit them and they send out the wave that kills everything on screen, the power-up environments are not.
Okay.
All that stuff. And think about how many different animators are in each one that need to be like turned into remade as Mechanim systems. All the particle systems in those need to be remade as Shuriken particle systems. So there's just and then all the references and all of the scripts for all of these groups have to be recoded to basically point to what I'm calling the master reference, which is just a script that sits there and holds references to everything. Because now with things spawning in and out and destroying and instantiating, there just needs to be a common place where it can get the player manager real quick, you know, or get the enemy manager real quick.
Okay.
Because it needs to communicate, you know, send data flow, you know.
Right.
But yeah, so that's kind of an overview of what's going on.
I just want to say that like I'm sensing like a lot of enthusiasm and like passion that I haven't heard from you in regards to Seraphim in a while.
You can't not do this without because think about everything I'm describing, and that's only a portion of everything going on. That's a lot of information to map out in your head.
No, I'm just this is exciting to me.
Yeah.
Like, to hear you talk about it in this kind of a way, because I mean there would be times where we talk about Seraphim and it was always so like down.
Well, I mean, I had nothing to share,
Right.
and it was kind of a depressing topic.
Right.
But yeah, now I'm back.
Yeah.
Like I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, anything else to share regarding Seraphim?
Nope, that's about it.
Okay, well, that was a big update.
Yeah.
I feel a lot got discussed there.
not a lot of update, but a lot of describing and explaining.
Sure. Okay, so we're going to jump into our first news topic before we take a break. And this news topic is kind of tied to a few smaller stories, but essentially where all of this discussion is going to come from is the fact that Nintendo released their third quarter financial results, and with it they released updated sales numbers for a lot of their first party games.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to go through these sales numbers and just kind of talk about them a little bit. And we should mention that these are sales, digital and physical, through the end of 2023.
In a past episode we talked about these same kind of sales numbers, but excluding the digital sales.
Right. So the numbers we discussed maybe 4 or 5 episodes ago were from Circana, who reports just North America sales, and they don't report numbers. They just report like position, pole position.
Right.
And sometimes you can gather how much a game is sold. Like let's say a game was number 3, and number 3 announced that they on their Twitter that they sold 50 million copies or something.
Yeah.
Well, then we know that everything above number 3 has probably sold at least that many copies as well.
Right.
But these are actual solid from Nintendo's mouth, including digital sales for all of their first party titles.
Which, is this the first time they've talked about digital sales numbers?
No, they do update these numbers themselves, but keep in mind these are worldwide sales, not just North America, the previously discussed sales numbers are.
Okay.
All right, so the first one we're going to talk about, and these I believe they go in order. Yes, so we're going to start with the largest selling title and work our way down.
Anyone want to guess what that was?
Okay, well, you believe it or not, it's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. With 60.58 million copies sold, and in just the last from the third quarter, which I think is September to December, 3.57 million copies.
That's crazy. That it's still selling that.
For a game that was available on launch day on the Nintendo Switch.
And on Wii U. So,
basically what this means is that half of people that own a Switch own Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mm-hmm. Because we're going to talk about Nintendo's Switch family of sales, the console sales, right after we get through the software. So then we have Animal Crossing New Horizons, famously launched simultaneously alongside the pandemic, the worldwide global pandemic. They are at Animal Crossing New Horizons is at 44.79 million copies, with 1.41 million new copies sold in that third quarter.
That's,
Still got legs.
I remember how popular it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, people were...
celebrities were playing.
Yeah. Celebrities were putting their, pattern codes and stuff on Twitter.
Design, Louis Vuitton, released,
That's
official,
so crazy. Brands got into, making patterns and
it got so crazy that Nintendo had to put out guidelines for brands how to respectfully put out their things without, infringing on,
Nintendo?
You can't, air a commercial... saying, Animal Crossing is partnered with Louis Vuitton,
See, that's where Nintendo, falls short in my mind. Because imagine if they just went to let the world go hog wild with that system,
Well, okay, yeah. In this new world of a lot of user-generated content, this world of, Roblox and things like that,
yeah.
I do wonder how far is the next Animal Crossing game going to go,
right. I don't know. I feel like they cut their toes off.
It probably will fall short of where it could potentially be, but I still think it'll be an interesting evolution for Nintendo at least. Then we have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with 33.67 million copies, so almost half as many copies as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And these next few titles kind of all fall within that range. And they sold, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate sold an additional 1.23 million. Keep in mind, that's also like a 5-year-old game. Mm-hmm. Still selling a million and a half copies in 3 months. Okay, and then we go to this. This is interesting. Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
You notice this is higher than Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah.
Somehow Breath of the Wild is outselling more new copies.
But if you look at Tears of the Kingdom,
that's true.
They sold more this quarter.
They did sell more that quarter. Okay, but still impressively, Breath of the Wild is at 31.6 million copies, and they sold almost an additional 500,000 copies at 460K.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Super Mario Odyssey, also a relatively early title in the Switch's life, at 2.65 million with an additional 700,000 copies sold. Pokemon Sword and Shield. Okay, these two. Yeah. We gotta talk about these two. Okay, Sword and Shield came out the end of 2019. Is now at a lifetime of 26.17 million units, mm-hmm. with 150,000 new copies sold in the last quarter.
So what do you think about that?
Okay, well, we got to read the next one first.
Shoot.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, only been out a year and some change at this point.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going.
Is at 24.36 million copies.
And it's not dying down because it sold 1.13 million.
Scarlet and Violet is going to surpass Sword and Shield's lifetime qualities this year.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I don't know that... Has that ever happened?
Which is...
in a generation? This, like, where multiple games hit... I don't know.
Why do you think that is? Because those games they're not perfect. You know, they're pretty broken in some areas.
I mean, yeah, visually, they're distracting with the pop-in and, like, textures.
I had crashes that caused me to lose progress.
Oh, especially if you don't keep autosave on, which you shouldn't if you're...
right. If you know what you're doing, you don't.
If you know what you're doing, you keep that off.
Yeah.
I think I had maybe one crash. It was never anything too significant, thankfully.
Early on, but sometimes when I'd walk into a gym,
mm-hmm.
it would just freeze and I'd have to restart.
A lot of people had issues with the game crashing when it first came out. I was fortunate enough not to have very many issues.
You were probably playing on the next generation Switch.
I mean, the OLED just has a brighter screen and better battery life. Okay. It doesn't actually have any better guts.
Okay.
You know, performance-wise.
But why do you think it's selling that much?
Well, I think Sword and Shield was kind of a half-baked open world style game, you know?
Yeah.
It was clearly... I mean, if you look at the areas that are not the wild area,
mm-hmm.
it feels like the 3DS games, you know, where you have these very, you know, the routes that are just like the 3DS game routes.
In a way, for me, it feels shorter than the 3DS games.
Oh, you can blast through Sword and Shield in under 10 hours.
Yeah.
Like, if you just want to go through all 8 badges and get to the championship and the arena at the end, you can do it in less than 10 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, to be fair, people speedrun Pokemon Red and Blue in, like, less than 3 hours.
Yeah,
so.
Right.
But, I mean, like, I'm not even a speedrunner, and if I can get through it in 10 hours, then I can only imagine what speedrunners can do with that game. I mean, and I don't know, like, and then obviously we have Scarlet and Violet, which is these, like, the first true full-blown open-world Pokemon game. Arceus kind of got us closer to that.
Right.
But still had broken up zones.
Yeah.
But then Scarlet and Violet was just like, hey, the whole world is open.
Yeah.
Excluding, like, one endgame area, effectively.
Right. I mean...
So I think people, say what you want about open worlds, but there's scientific data to back it up that games that are open world sell more than games that aren't.
Oh, yeah. And I think Breath of the Wild is what brought first-party Nintendo into, like,
because in terms of, like, a modern open world that people come to expect, Breath of the Wild really kind of got Nintendo there.
Yeah.
And then I think Pokemon saw that success and said, hey, we want, players are demanding that now of us.
Right.
First thing, I think Game Freak probably would have preferred not to have to have made an open world game and just continued making these games that have routes and things,
right,
you know?
right.
I mean, and I don't know, there's a part of me that like still likes that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want every Pokemon game to be open world. I'd rather have like
See, you know what? I wonder if we'll get kind of a, you know, Zelda and Mario both have sort of a two-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Where they have their big 3D game, and then they have like a smaller
spin-off kind of.
Well, more traditional 2D style, top-down or side-scrolling
like
game.
Lineage.
So yeah, I would like to see Pokemon get to that point where they have like, hey, here's the big new generation that's an open world, and then hey, why don't we do these other titles?
I kind of see that happening already, where the remakes
fill that. I would like to see original games.
Yeah, well,
that
I mean, that is two, like, so 4 mainline Pokemon games going on at the same time.
Okay, well, I mean, ultimately, I would rather not get remakes, and I would rather get an original Pokemon game. Like, think about what Coliseum did for Pokemon.
Yeah.
It didn't add new Pokemon. It didn't, like, do anything drastic. It didn't, like, oh, hey, there's a generation inside this game, you know?
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, here's this game set in an original area with an original story, and it just happens to feature Pokemon you already know.
Yeah.
You know, like, I would like to see some of those kinds of things with the Pokemon IP. Like, just give us some small 20-hour, you know, still technically a mainline game, you know, connects to home.
Yeah.
Just give me, like, a new adventure in some region adjacent to Johto or something, you
know?
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
Like, kind of like Kitakami, you know, like, they should do more, like, small little region kind of games.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, give me a more traditional play style. Like, I think that would be exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to see remakes happen at the same time.
That's a lot.
I would love to see another Legends game happen at the same
time. That's too much. That's not gonna.
Yeah.
Like.
But I mean, okay, if you had to, obviously, new generation games are probably all going to be open world going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like something on the level of Scarlet and Violet, you know, whatever the next generation is, we can bet our butts it's going to be open world.
Unless things start like boiling over with the open world crap, and we go back to...
They're about to get access to new hardware.
Yeah.
You know, beefier hardware that can maybe make up for some of their lack of technical prowess.
Right. So
I think Pokemon Game Freak is really going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
As helping some of their shortcomings not be so visible.
Right.
So I don't think we're going to see open world go away. Let's presume that all main series games, all new generation games are open world. Let's just pretend that that's what's just happening. Like, they've made that determination. They've announced it. But, like, other games can happen. So you can either have remakes, you can have more Legends games, or you can have new, original, kind of throwback, you know, classic sprite top-down kind of games.
Yeah.
Or 3DS style
right.
games.
So, obviously, we need the mainline ones.
Well, that's happening no matter what. Now we got to pick one of the other 3.
Well, I kind of liken Legends Arceus to something like along Colosseum. The lines of Coliseum.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think I'd have to pick a new Legends games.
Yeah.
I think that's a fun way to explore like history.
Yeah.
In Pokemon.
Yeah.
Give us a new region, but also set somewhere familiar.
I think that the remakes are pretty necessary because we're losing access. Yeah, we're losing access, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather just see them bring those old games over to Switch
like
somehow.
Virtual Console them over.
Whatever it's got to be, and make sure they have home connection, and then like problem solved. You don't have to remake.
You don't have to. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, you did it on the 3DS. Yeah, do it again on the Switch. How hard is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, anyways, we've digressed quite
a bit
here. Super Mario Party at 20.34 million with 680,000 new copies. That's a big increase in new copies sold. When you compare the last few of these that have all been in the couple hundreds of thousands, this one's got 680. Mario Party. Yeah, that's just forever. And then we have The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom with 20.28 million copies. Now, talk about front-loaded sales, because in the last quarter of the year, keep in mind, this is a game that came out in May.
Yeah.
In the last quarter of the year, Tears of the Kingdom only sold 780,000 new copies.
I mean, that, again, is higher for the quarter than Breath of the Wild.
Right.
But that is a massive drop-off from their previous number of sales.
In the previous 2 quarters,
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom sold 20.28 million copies. But only sold... So, I mean, that means, like, most consumers that were going to buy Tears of the Kingdom have bought it.
Yeah.
Like, they were there, waited with bated breath for that game to drop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure most of that 20 million happened that first quarter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Probably the first couple days.
Yeah, probably the first couple days, if we're being realistic. So that's interesting. It's clearly not going to break Breath of the Wild. I don't think it's not gonna cross Breath of the Wild.
No.
It's got 11. I mean, okay, so Tears of the...
Well, look at Breath of the Wild is only a little bit higher, but it's still pulling in 500,000 quarterly sales.
I mean, we're talking about a difference of 11.5 million copies sold.
Yep.
And Breath of the Wild has been out for 7 years.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's possible for Breath of the... Like, I feel like as long as Tears of the Kingdom has time to be remaining on the market, Breath of the Wild will have that same amount of time remaining on the market. And I just don't see that gap ever really closing.
No, I see what you're saying, but if Tears of the Kingdom has this kind of drop off, expect that 780,000 to be
smaller next quarter.
Yeah,
probably
300,000 or 400,000,
which is still a good amount of
sales.
sales.
I know, but my point is that Breath of the Wild, a 4-year-old game, still pulling in 500,000.
Okay, so I think we're going to see...
It's a difference of longevity.
Right. I mean, yeah, clearly Breath of the Wild has the advantage of having come out 7 years prior.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about that, though. I'm talking about, like, how much it's still pulling in.
Right. Well, I think if you're someone who hasn't played either, you are going to want to start.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
Because it is a direct sequel.
I'm sure Tears of the Kingdom's release probably sold a bunch of copies of Breath of the Wild.
Exactly. Like, people are like, oh, I do want to play Tears of the Kingdom, but I still haven't played Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And it's got to be daunting to go straight from Breath of the Wild into Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. That's too much.
Yeah, that's
You need time in between those 2 games.
Yeah.
Like, you will burn yourself out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because as much as they play differently, they play a lot the same.
Yeah.
You know? The formula, in terms of the gameplay loop, is not drastically different enough to, like, go from one into the other. Like, a 7-year break was perfect for me.
Right.
Like, I can't imagine playing those games back to back. And, you know, but then we have the opposite effect where Scarlet and Violet is closing in on Sword and Shield quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, then we got new Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe at 17.2 million copies with an additional 500,000 sold. Luigi's Mansion 3, very respectable, almost 14 million copies with another 1.16 since March of 2023. I guess we hadn't got a sales update on that one in a while.
Oh.
And then we have Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury with 13.17 million with an additional almost 600,000 copies sold. Nintendo Switch Sports, the sort of spiritual successor to Wii Sports, at 2.48 million with an additional 1.7 million copies sold. Mario Party Superstars at 12.31 million with an additional 870,000 sold. This is the newer Mario Party, which Super Mario Party is
up there.
The first one that came out for the Switch.
Right.
And Mario Party Superstars is the newer one. I'd hear, well, I mean, from what I've played of the two, I'd want to play Mario Party Superstars more than I'd want to play Super Mario Party.
Really?
Yeah, Mario Party Superstars, I don't remember. I think you played it. That's the one that has the more traditional... It has a bunch of classic boards from like the N64 and GameCube games.
Yeah.
Super Mario Party has very small boards.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess maybe the games are quicker, but I feel like there's less hijinks that kind of go on. And that's what I want from Mario Party, you know?
You do want hijinks or you don't?
I do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason to play a Mario Party game. Okay, now we're getting into... we got 4 more to go, and 2 of them are brand new titles for the quarter. First, we have Super Mario Brothers Wonder, the new 2D side-scrolling game. I talked about it last year. Absolutely loved it. It has sold at the end of December, 11.96 million copies. So 12 million copies from like the middle of October till the end of December. That's really good.
Yeah.
12 million copies in a month and a half.
Pretty
or
good.
2.5 months. It's very good. And then we have Splatoon 3. That's at 11.71 million copies. An additional 1 million copies sold since March of 2023. Then we've got Pikmin 4 with 3.33 million copies sold. That's an addition of 720,000 copies. And then lastly, the other newcomer from the third quarter, Super Mario RPG, the remake of the classic Super Nintendo game.
Yep.
At a very respectable 3.14 million copies sold.
Yeah.
For I think that's a really good number.
Yeah, it is.
For a previously very niche, kind of unknown title for a lot of people.
It also wasn't developed, I don't think, internally by Nintendo. It was a third-party developer.
That's correct, yeah.
So, I mean, for them, this is great.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that this means that, like, they're looking at, you know, Mario RPG a little more seriously. Whether the Paper Mario games or continuing Mario RPG.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. Now we're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch's lifetime sales as of right now, or at least as of the third quarter. I'm not sure if this number is from the end of the third quarter or a more recent number, but we have the latest data from Nintendo, which says that the Nintendo Switch family, so that's Switch, Switch Lite, and Switch...
No, you're talking about... Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, and the Switch OLED have now collectively sold 139.36 million units.
That's quite a lot.
That's the most units I think any console has sold in quite some time. In fact, it's so close to Nintendo DS's family lifetime sales, which is at 154.02 million units. Aside from, I think, the PlayStation 2, nothing has ever exceeded the DS sales.
So, if you think about it, there's a lot of generations of Nintendo DS that came out. So
let's run through them all, shall we?
So, original DS, DS Lite, DSi, then what?
DSi XL.
Yeah, DSi XL.
So we have 4 iterations of the DSi, or the DS.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't miss any.
I don't think so.
No, just the 4.
Yeah.
The 3DS, however, had like 7 or 8 different iterations.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about the Nintendo 3DS. We're specifically talking about how, I mean, there's only about 15 million sales away from the DS total. Now, do you think Switch gets there? This is probably this year and next year. Next year will...
So, there's a lot of factors that could come into play here. If they do another, like, collector's edition or something like that, or there's another big sale or a big push for more Switches to go out.
Keep in mind, the Nintendo Switch has never actually had a price cut.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's true.
And so, we're talking about a successor to the Nintendo Switch coming out.
Well, they do have Black Friday sales and stuff.
No, the only thing they do is bundle a digital copy of Mario Kart 8 with the unit.
Okay.
So basically, no sales.
Sales are out. But yeah, a collector's edition or something like that.
With the Switch in its twilight, the Nintendo Switch successor, soon to be
I get
on the market.
I get the landscape.
There are going to be sales for the Switch, no doubt.
That's true, yeah.
So 15 million units is not unreasonable, I don't think.
No. Could it sell another 20,000 or 20 million? Yeah, probably.
It needs to sell 15 million more to beat the DS.
Yeah.
So the Nintendo Switch, when do you think it'll be off the market?
Well, we have information coming up that suggests.
But historically, Nintendo doesn't
Yeah.
immediately cut off the predecessor console.
They do it like halfway through the lifespan of the next one, right?
I would think if the Switch successor comes out this year sometime, I would think no sometime in 2026 production will end on the original Switch, or you won't be able to really buy it or find it anywhere anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think we will start to see sales on it. I think we could eventually get to the point where like the Switch Lite is only $99.
Yeah.
Regular Switch is $150, and then maybe the OLED at $200 or $175. I remember the 3DS/2DS started to like really fall in price.
Yeah.
The last couple of years that they were still selling it.
Well, not jumping ahead, but I think we have some information that might shed some light on when we can expect the Switch successor.
Well, you are jumping ahead.
Well, sorry.
We know it's coming this year. I mean, like, we have a pretty good idea that it's coming this year. We kind of know that already.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do you think it gets there, or do you think 15? You think people are going to be distracted by the new Switch?
No, I think that there is enough lifespan left to get there.
2 years to sell 15 million more?
Yeah, I do think so.
Yeah.
I think there will be a bunch of people who do try to grab one before it's done.
Yeah.
And then also, again, if there is another collector's edition before the Switch successor or even after.
Well, so last year they did have the Zelda OLED Tears of the Kingdom edition of the Switch OLED.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that people who already owned a Switch, I'm sure a lot of people bought that one.
Oh, yeah.
There's people who specifically collect the Zelda collector's editions that Nintendo releases, going back to, I think, like the GBA SP was the first time they did a special console.
For Zelda?
Yeah, maybe Game Boy.
I don't know, actually.
Okay, yeah, I know for sure there was the Triforce GBA SP. That's the only. There may have been like a Game Boy Color that was like gold Game Boy Color or something like that that had a Triforce or something
potentially
on it.
Game Boy Color. I know for sure there was a DS.
Oh yeah, everyone since.
A few of them.
Yeah, at least since the GBA SP, there's been a special Zelda console for at least one.
Right.
Yeah. I think 3DS had 3 special consoles during its life cycle.
Was there a Wii?
I know there was a Red Mario Wii.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know what's really interesting about the Red Mario Wii?
What?
Is it had a custom edited ROM from Nintendo for the original Mario game. Because it was during the 25th anniversary of Mario.
Right.
Where the question blocks were changed to 25th blocks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they did like a ROM edit.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure that ROM's probably been dumped.
Yeah.
So you could find that version of the game.
That is
there.
crazy, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they don't I don't think they've ever seen them do anything like that
Do
since.
a mod of their own game.
Exactly. So within striking distance of the DS, which people thought was impossible, it's probably going to do it.
Yeah, I think
there's a really good chance it's going to cross that finish line. And the other interesting bit, kind of throwing it back to an earlier episode where we reported that Hogwarts Legacy was the #1 selling game in America last year.
And you were very gung-ho that Zelda was going to overtake it if they include the other sales.
Well, we still don't know the America-only sales.
Okay.
All we have now is worldwide sales for both Hogwarts Legacy and Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So, as we said earlier, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has sold 20.28 million copies. And Hogwarts Legacy, we know, has sold 22 million copies. So by 1.7 million copies, Hogwarts Legacy has outsold Tears of the Kingdom globally.
Yeah.
Now, something I think is worth noting, as a little asterisk, and Rick might think otherwise,
Yeah.
is that Tears of the Kingdom was on one single console. You could only buy it at one place, the Nintendo Switch. So 20.28 million copies on a single console is insane. I think so.
Okay.
And then as for Hogwarts Legacy, it was available on PC, Switch. It had a PS4 native copy. It had a PS5 native copy. It had an Xbox Series X or Series XS share the same copy.
Mm-hmm.
And it also had an Xbox One, which is a previous generation copy as well. So 6 different platforms there, 22 million copies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Hogwarts Legacy. I'm just trying to say, dang, it's impressive that Zelda sold 20.28 million copies on a single system in less than a year.
I mean, if you're looking at it competitively, that's Nintendo's choice. But also, I don't see how that really... I don't see a lot of people buying the PC, the Switch, the PS4, the PS5 version of Hogwarts Legacy. Well, I think most of those players bought it on one platform.
I think you'd be surprised. No, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that people bought it multiple times across the console. I think most people probably only bought Hogwarts Legacy once.
Right. But then that doesn't even become a factor in the sales numbers.
Well, let's say it was only available on PS5.
Mm-hmm.
Hogwarts Legacy was only on PS5.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have sold 20.28 million copies? There's no way.
Well, more people have a PS4, so if we put it on the PS4, maybe.
So if it was only on PS4,
possibly.
I would disagree there. I don't think
PC. I mean, if it was, I don't know, PC probably.
Well, you do have a lot. I mean, PC is a big market.
Yeah,
it's bigger than people like to give it credit for.
So yeah, you do have a bigger base of players to sell it to.
Oh yeah, if you add up, we know there's 140 million Switches out there, right?
Yeah.
But when you combine PC, Switch, PS4, you have like probably a billion potential people to sell it to.
Right. Yeah, like a massive portion of
maybe larger than a billion. So, I mean, like in a small, like by selling 20.28 million copies on Switch, effectively 1/6, 1/7 of Switch owners bought Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Which is a really good number.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you look at Hogwarts Legacy, I mean, as a fraction of everyone who owns all those consoles, I'm sure the number is very small.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Percentage-wise.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not trying to take away anything from Hogwarts Legacy. Clearly, there's an audience for it. I mean, I'm sure they knew that they had to port it this many different ways to get that sales number. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's very many people who can do the Zelda thing. I think you got Rockstar Games. They're going to sell... When GTA 6 comes out next year, it's probably going to blow Tears of the Kingdom out of the water.
Right, but how many publishers and or developers, but mostly publishers, that release on multi-platform, sort of structure.
Right.
If they were platform exclusive, do you like if Ubisoft only released on PlayStation?
Which they don't.
Right. But if they did, like, don't you think Assassin's Creed and all that would hit those numbers,
No, I think they would hurt. I think it would hurt their sales. Like, there's an argument being made, like, Square Enix keeps having all these PS5 exclusives, and it's hurting them. People are saying it's hurting Square Enix that they keep signing these deals with Sony in exchange for whatever, free marketing or, free development resources, I don't know. When they could be selling it on, PC and Xbox Series consoles and be making way more money because they'd have to target way more players.
Right.
Because when these time deals eventually go up, the game is old news when it's finally coming out on PC and when it's finally coming out on Xbox.
Yeah, I get that.
So, like, sales that they maybe would have been more front-loaded are now much more minuscule because players have moved on from that game.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, especially, like, the online, very... I gotta be in the know and the discussion of everything.
Yeah.
That, like, if other people aren't playing it anymore,
right,
they're not playing it anymore. They've moved on too.
Right.
Even though maybe they wanted to play the game, but they just won't anymore.
I don't understand being like that.
Yeah, like if there's something you want to play, just play it.
I play Super Famicom.
Yeah. So anyways, Hogwarts Legacy wins.
Yeah.
Last year, like globally, no one came close. This does tell me though that it's very likely that Tears of the Kingdom outsold the new Call of Duty game last year. Because Hogwarts was at the top.
We would hear about it if it came close.
Right. So we know Hogwarts sold, at least in North America, it was the number one selling game. Mm-hmm. And then it was Call of Duty from 2023, and then Call of Duty from 2024 in the number 2 and 3 spot.
Yeah, that's right. Zelda was 5 or 6 or something.
Zelda was 5 or 6. Physical data only.
Only, yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, we don't have hard sales numbers for the Call of Duty games. If we did, I would suspect it's very possible that Tears of the Kingdom did outsell them.
It might have.
Yeah. But we got anything left to say on that topic?
Nope.
Okay. So we're going to move into another segment, kind of similar to the last one in that we're going to nestle 3 smaller stories under one banner here. We're calling it Rumor Roundup.
Rumor Roundup.
It's been kind of a quiet week from the publishers themselves, but there's been plenty to talk about due to just some insiders dropping some tidbits and some discussion that's just been going around the industry. Specifically, we're going to talk about Xbox.
This is why you come here, guys.
At the end of last week's episode, we talked about how Xbox was going to be making a business update announcement regarding the future of the Xbox business plan, essentially.
Yeah.
Because a big story came out from reputable sources saying that Xbox was going to start publishing their Xbox exclusives.
There was going to be no first party Xbox any longer. It was all going to be third,
I mean, yeah, some people were saying like Xbox was just going to be day and date with all their games and other platforms. Some people were saying maybe Xbox is done selling hardware altogether because they're so behind. It's like 2 to 1 right now.
Yeah.
For every one Series X, Series S that's sold, there's 2 PS5s being sold at the moment.
So I have some thoughts about that, but I'll save them.
Let's get through this little bit of new info we have. First, right before the weekend, apparently employees at Xbox were distraught at like this news, and like I guess Xbox leadership wasn't really
answering questions,
but they did apparently tell employees before the weekend that Xbox consoles will still be made. Mm-hmm. The Xbox consoles are not going anywhere. They're not leaving the console business. So the rumor that Xbox was just going full third party and just going to be a third party publisher, that's unfounded. It's not true.
Okay, let me cut you off.
Okay.
They will always say that. They will always. They're not going to come out. Imagine if they have, these companies all have the roadmaps and whatnot, and theirs leaked actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that they were at least at one point working on a new console.
Right.
Maybe still are.
So let's say let's say that the leadership at Xbox has decided that they do want to exit the hardware market.
Okay.
But they still have 5-6 years to go. They're not going to come out now and say we're leaving.
I mean,
because that would hurt, massively hurt the next 5-6.
Sure, but years. I mean, it does tell me that. I mean, at least maybe there's still plans for that adorably all digital Series X.
Yeah.
Which would be a new console from Xbox.
Yeah, of course.
And supposedly, when he addressed some concerns last week with employees, he would not address their concerns about games going to other consoles. Like, he just stayed silent. He just didn't respond to those kinds of inquiries from employees.
Yeah.
So that means that it's almost confirmation by not talking about it yet. And what we did get announced this morning is that this Xbox business update is going to be part of the official Xbox podcast broadcast on February 15th at 12 p.m. It'll be live on YouTube. So this is when they're going to spill the beans as to what's going on, what's changing, and how things are going to be different going forward with Xbox games. The Verge posted a article today. I didn't have time to add it to our notes, but in it they talked about the first two games that are going to be coming to other platforms, specifically Switch and PS5, are going to be Hi-Fi Rush.
Okay.
And Pentiment, which is this. Honestly, maybe. Well, I want to play both of these games. But Pentiment is this cool game where it's like the whole thing is taking place on like those very like the kinds of scrolls, and like the graphics look like like medieval times, like scrolls and like paintings on the graphics, and it's apparently like this like murder mystery kind of thing, but the whole thing takes place. I think it was made by Obsidian Entertainment, who I think they're located in Irvine or somewhere around there. And then Hi-Fi Rush was made by what was Shinji Mikami's studio that made The Evil Within? The Resident Evil guy.
What?
No.
Was it a Capcom subsidiary?
No, Shinji Mikami left Capcom.
Oh, right.
Started his new studio. Then they got acquired by Bethesda. Anyways, so
I know who you're talking about now.
Hi-Fi Rush, anyways, is this character, single player, but like very colorful, character-driven story, combat / rhythm kind of game. And that also had really strong word of mouth early last year.
Yeah.
So we know, well, The Verge says these are coming physically and will probably be announced by Xbox this Thursday. What do you think excites me the most about this news?
What do I think excites you?
Yeah. About the possibility of them coming to other platforms.
Well, that you can play them on Switch?
Well, I mean, that's exciting. But so far, these games, like especially Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, are digital only.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And Xbox is seemingly committed to not putting out their digital only games physically ever.
Yeah.
So now that there's a chance that these games are coming to other platforms,
right?
I think that means there's maybe now a chance that these games could get a physical release at some point as well.
Right.
I mean, if Xbox is smart and they want money,
yeah,
you only make this move if you want money.
Right.
You only make your exclusives non-exclusive if you need money.
Right.
Or if you need to start showing more of a profit.
And, I mean, yeah, you only make physical games if you need money. Because, like, who was it? Was it EA or the head of EA, or was it the head of Ubisoft? One of them made that statement saying, I don't think it'll ever go away. There's a collector market.
Right.
And they know that collector market is here to stay.
There's always those people that are going to want it physically.
Yes.
Until those people all die off.
Right.
Which you're looking at another 50 years probably.
Right. And, I mean, physical sales are still at least 20% of sales.
I mean,
you know,
I think it's higher than that.
Yeah. On most consoles.
Right.
I'm looking at the lowest common denominator.
Sure. Yeah.
Being Xbox.
But yeah, you're right. In some places, it is that low.
Yeah. So, but that's still 20%.
You don't just want to lose that
right.
market.
Why would you... why? I don't...
But Xbox is seemingly doing that.
The only reason... the only explanation for the initiative to keep things digital only could only be that they want to force a direction.
Yeah.
You know, that's they're paying to not put out physical copies.
Right. Yeah, they're more interested in making the consumer consume a new way.
Yeah.
Than they are in giving the consumer what they
want and making money.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it's crazy. That's how big of a deal it is.
Well, when one person does it, usually it'll embolden other people to try it out too.
Right.
And so I think that's maybe what they're hoping, is that everyone else will follow their lead.
Yeah.
And then they win.
Right.
And then consumers no longer have choice.
Right. Which is exactly what they want.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. But that is literally what they're sitting around board meetings talking about.
Yeah, it is.
Talking about...
They're like a round table.
Yeah.
You know that's happening.
Yeah, and then when they talk about it publicly, they use all this flowery
Right,
language
right.
and make it sound great and convenient.
Or they just flat out lie.
Yeah.
And then 3 years later, things change. Or whatever.
So next week we will definitely be talking about this, which is probably going to be a blowout, in
Yeah.
terms of the information.
Yeah.
I do wonder, like, Xbox has to walk a really fine line here because there are rabid Xbox people.
Yeah.
And this is going to upset them,
Yeah.
probably.
Right, yeah.
They risk alienating their most hardcore people that are still in that console war mentality from, 2005 or 6 or whatever.
I don't think, I'm going to say this. Between all the console holders, I think Microsoft understands gamers the least. Because they have their foot in so many different pies, or whatever that saying is, that, like, Sony, for the most part, at least PlayStation being the subsidiary, they really only make games. Nintendo only makes games.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft they make phones, they make
Right.
computers, they make operating systems.
I mean, you could say the same for Sony.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, no.
Because you're talking about Xbox as a subsidiary then.
Yeah.
Xbox only makes...
Right, but think about... okay, even if you consider the parent company of Sony, they're not doing all the kinds of stuff Microsoft's trying
They're
to do.
big, but they're not Microsoft
Right.
big. That's for damn sure.
They make very certain products. Usually their products, like TVs and stuff like that.
They make high-end electronics.
Yeah, they make high-end electronics, exactly.
I mean, they sell Walkmans that cost $30,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That are essentially really fancy Android phones that don't do phone things and just play music. But they have, like, crazy high-end, like, DACs inside them, so your music is perfect. Kojima has one.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Visionary.
Of course he does. Visionary game designer.
And Walkman listener.
Yeah. Visionary Walkman consumer.
Dude, I mean, how cool would it be to say, oh yeah, I have a, like, walk around. Like, I want a Walkman.
Well, okay. If we want to get on that, how cool would it be to own a Lamborghini?
I know, but, like, isn't it crazy? Okay, sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent, but Walkmans used to be this for the every person, $15 thing that you'd clip onto your belt so you could listen to your tapes, your cassettes. And now it's just for the uber rich.
He probably was giving it for free, dude.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I got nothing to say about that. That's crazy.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to some Nintendo rumors. This first one is about a new Nintendo Direct that is likely set for this Thursday on February 15th, which would put it at the same date as Xbox's business update.
Mm-hmm.
So this Xbox business update was announced prior to this, or was announced after this rumor of the Nintendo Direct. Now, let's imagine you're the big three.
Yeah.
And you're all, for whatever reason, word gets out that you guys are all targeting the same week to make announcements.
Yeah.
But no one has made a move of like, oh, we're doing our announcement on this day at this time, and we're doing our announcement at this day at that time.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of have to wait for the first person to say something so that then the other parties can now go, okay, they've claimed that spot. Now we need to, maybe we were originally eyeing that same time and date, but now we have to totally readjust. And these are global companies.
Yeah.
So now they all got to move forward or backward. So I'm kind of worried about this Nintendo Direct rumor even panning out this week. Because I don't think Nintendo, after hearing that Xbox is targeting the 15th, is still targeting the 15th. Traditionally, Nintendo, when they announce their Direct, they give 24 to 48 hours notice for a Direct.
Right.
Like, it's always very like, tune in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tune in 2 days from now.
Right.
To the new Nintendo Direct. So, I mean, either to the Nintendo...
Or Nintendo was feeling bold and they want to just step on Xbox.
If they really... Okay, now Nintendo Directs are typically early in the morning. Usually like 6 or 7 a.m.
That's true, yeah.
Western time, or Pacific time, I should say. So I think it's possible they still could do it on the same day.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think they're going to do it Valentine's Day.
Yeah, no.
It's just weird
Yeah.
to do it on Valentine's Day. We know it's not tomorrow morning
Yeah.
because tomorrow morning they haven't said anything yet. So
Yeah.
it's just not happening. So either now it's Friday or Thursday.
Mhm.
Thursday seems unlikely because they don't want to overlap with someone else. They don't want their news to get overshadowed
Yeah.
by Xbox's
Right.
news later in the day.
Right.
So I think it's likely that this rumor doesn't play out, and we see this get pushed till next week now.
Okay.
I see the Nintendo Direct possibly being pushed into next week.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't the last one State of Play and Nintendo Direct on the same day?
It was the same week.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was when we first started the podcast,
Yeah,
I
right.
think. It was back in September. They both had an event. I think one was like Tuesday and one was Thursday, something like that.
Okay. I don't know. I see your point about Nintendo not wanting their news to get buried or
Yeah.
mixed in with other Xbox.
Right, depending on how big of a bombshell the Xbox news
I don't
is.
even know if one day is enough. To...
Okay, well, think about this. What if the Xbox news is almost part of the Nintendo Direct? What if, as part of announcing that these games are coming to other platforms, the reveal is in the Nintendo Direct earlier in
Phil
the morning?
Spencer comes on.
Okay,
The
so
Nintendo
now my brain is thinking that Thursday is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday morning, Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment get announced for Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Maybe Phil Spencer's on there or not. Or maybe, just in the Xbox broadcast later that afternoon, they talk about why this is happening.
Yeah.
I think, okay, maybe Thursday's
That's
still
more
happening.
that's more coordinated than I was thinking about
Well,
this.
Nintendo and Microsoft have already worked together
Yeah.
in recent years. The Ori games, the Ori Will of the Wisps.
Right. Yeah.
They were both announced in a Nintendo Direct as, former Xbox exclusives now available on other platforms.
Right.
Yeah, I think it could still be happening.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about
when
it.
I read this Xbox news the first time, I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't thinking it would be as coordinated as you're thinking right now.
Okay.
I was thinking like Xbox just themselves kind of just start publishing.
Right.
But if it's like a joint effort between
Mm-hmm.
Xbox and Nintendo and Xbox and Sony, yeah, that would actually be pretty cool.
Okay. I mean, yeah, if they want to put these games out on like Sony, which I don't know that the Ori games ever came to PlayStation. I think they only came to Switch.
Mm-hmm. They were on Xbox, right?
They were originally on Xbox. But they were sort of the first dominoes to fall. But then we really haven't had any other game. Well, we had Cuphead, which was also an Xbox exclusive.
Oh, yeah.
Cuphead did come to PS5 or PS4 or PS5 as well as Switch. So I guess there is some precedent. Although I believe the Cuphead people published that themselves on the other platforms. I know they had funding originally to make those an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
But I think whatever...
Yeah, that sounds to me like just their exclusivity deal ran out, and so they just published everywhere else.
Right, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Next week might be a really packed episode.
Yeah.
We're going to have this Xbox update, possibly a Nintendo Direct to talk about, and then of course our event over the weekend.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a long episode next week.
Okay, and then one other big rumor, also related to Nintendo, and this rumor specifically comes from a couple of well-known insiders with a good track record. One of them specifically someone who goes by Nate Drake.
Yeah, we've talked about him.
Nate the Hate.
Oh.
Nate the Hate. He has his own podcast. And this week he was this past week he was doing a podcast with some of the guys from Digital Foundry, which, if you're aware of Digital Foundry, they're sort of a subsidiary of Eurogamer, and they do like tech analysis video games, like examining their frames per second, their frames drop, and just kind of overall analysis, like what platforms does the game run better on, just things to make and help consumers make more informed purchases.
Yeah. And developers too, probably.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. You would think that the guys that do that podcast are like graphics obsessed people.
Yeah.
they're not necessarily like some like I've there's one guy, his name is John, and he likes a lot of like kind of weird, kind of obscure game like Japanese games and things,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not like necessarily big time lookers and
Right.
stuff like that. So like they have a variety of taste, but they're good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were on Nate's podcast, and Nate was talking about how he's heard that Nintendo's going to be unveiling the Switch successor very soon, actually. Not at the Nintendo Direct, that's
Mm-hmm.
coming out potentially later this week or next week, maybe, but in early March, shortly before the Game Developer Conference in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, that makes perfect sense for Nintendo. They're probably going to have all these private rooms, and they're going to be able to set up meetings because interest in the Switch successor is going to shoot up
Yeah.
immediately, and they're going to have all these inquiries. And what a better place to meet people than at GDC,
Right.
a week or two later after the announcement.
Right.
So, and then he says he's expecting that the initial announcement is not going to be like a crazy, hyper detailed announcement.
Mm-hmm.
We'll learn the basics of the console, whatever maybe the gimmick might be.
Yeah.
And then in summer, it'll really get fleshed out with whatever direct or presentation they do to really sell the system.
Like E3 time, like
Yeah,
July.
probably June, July, somewhere around that time. It doesn't have to be June anymore,
Yeah.
just because E3's gone,
Yeah, right.
and then there's Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest,
Yeah.
which we'll see what form that takes this
But
year.
we do still see a lot of activity around that week.
Yeah, there's still interest.
Yeah.
Like, as much as people maybe don't like E3 anymore, there's still interest in that season.
Yeah.
It was like Christmas for gamers,
Right.
So, in the industry misses it too. The industry misses getting together.
There's definitely a void, and I mean, I don't know if Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest is filling that void, but there's still like you see just activity, like independent activity happening.
People are still having blowout kind of presentate. Now they're all digital streams,
Right.
but like they're still kind of fitting that same cycle.
Right.
So yeah, and then the Switch successor should be released sometime in the fall, which is all fairly predictable. I think the thing that's interesting here from this whole rumor is that it's going to be announced soon,
Mm-hmm.
and that the timing with GDC is smart for Nintendo on like multiple levels.
Right.
And then the guy from Digital Foundry who was on the podcast, he was talking about how or maybe Nate was too, where the larger screen isn't necessarily, we previously talked that the Switch successor is going to have an 8-inch
Mm-hmm.
LCD screen due to some report from Bloomberg where some analysts that track screen sales, found that Sharp was producing a new 8-inch LCD seemingly for Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason for the bigger screen isn't because necessarily Nintendo wants to say, hey, it has a bigger screen, which is still a good selling point.
Yeah.
I mean, 8 inches is good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, 8 inches is probably as big as you want to get it.
Yeah. I mean, from playing the PlayStation Portal, like I like that size.
Yeah.
I like
think
that.
it's about the same size as the OLED Switch
Yeah.
screen, maybe a smidge larger. So I think the 8-inch screen is going to be just a little bigger than the PlayStation Portal.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it is a good size.
Yeah.
But the real reason for the bigger screen is that the unit itself is going to be bigger because they need more space for the chips, a bigger battery, and that's the battery, I guess, is like a real big sticking point. I mean, battery tech is, lithium ion batteries. We've pretty much pushed them as far as we can get them.
Right.
All we can really do to make lithium ion batteries better is making the software more efficient and consume less of the battery.
Right.
But as we're getting these more powerful handhelds, they're consuming more of the battery than they were previously. Right. So to get battery life better, like you just have to put bigger batteries in there.
Right. Multiple batteries.
Yeah, maybe even multiple. And the other thing that Nate said on the podcast is that he fully expects that backwards compatibility will be there with digital and physical games. Games can be updated to run better by the developers on the new console, and some games that maybe already have uncapped frame rates in their games will just by default run better on the new Switch. So if there's like a game that you really like that has like poor frame rate but maybe normally targets 30 FPS, you should be able to just put that in the new Switch and it'll just run maybe at the target frame rate. You know, it'll be a smooth experience going forward. It might even help games like Sword and Shield, which not Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet, which clearly have like slowdowns and stuff at times.
Yeah, especially I noticed the water effect in those games for whatever reason just eats up the GPU.
As soon as you get near the water in those games, I mean, just getting near it is enough to just
getting it in the camera where it has to render and run. There's probably like 10 or 20 passes just to create that water effect from the GPU.
But let alone getting actually on the water and surfing on it.
Forget it.
Shiny hunting on water is horrible.
Doing anything on the water sucks.
I find that it's better in handheld than it is on the TV. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know how much that's really saying.
Yeah.
But,
one thing that... Okay, total tangent.
Sure.
One thing that irks me in those games is when you're riding on Koraidon or Miraidon, you can't use the camera. And that might not, like, be a big deal for most people, but I use that camera. And there are certain situations where, like when you're swimming, where you have to be on him. So basically, you can't take any pictures or use the camera.
Oh, okay. When you say camera, I thought you were talking about moving.
Yeah, sorry, not the main.
You mean
camera.
the actual in-game photography camera?
The camera app in the game.
Yeah.
For your Pokédex or whatever.
I agree. Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah, like why? Why can't
There is no good reason for that limitation whatsoever.
So stupid, and I especially use that camera when I'm examining like really small wild Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't take pictures on the water. Why not?
I mean, and to me, the camera app is almost useless as a normal camera app.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're trying to take a picture of the scenic landscape...
It's very baked, like, underbaked.
It looks so bad.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't even want to take, like, scenery shots in
And
that
there's
game.
no zoom.
Nope.
Like, why?
Yeah, no zoom.
This should be basic.
Yeah.
Basic
and then if you get,
hell.
like, too close to another trainer, they, like, disappear.
Yeah,
so
but their Pokeball in their hand is still visible.
Yeah. So you're, like, trying to take, like, a selfie with, like, a trainer.
And there's, like, it's a floating Pokeball.
Yeah, there's all kinds of problems with that camera.
I really wish that part was better.
So, okay, I have a question for you. And this will be the last thing we talk about before we move on to our final story.
Sure.
Now, you've talked about generally being kind of a purist when it comes to playing games on, like, the appropriate platform that they were made for, right? So I'm just curious. I'm not trying to accuse you of anything.
No, I know.
I just want to know, what do you think about, like, playing, let's just say Scarlet and Violet on the Switch 2 and it runs way better. Are you like, well, that's not how the developers wanted it?
No.
You should be playing it on the original Switch?
Well, we already know it's going to be backwards compatible, right? Or rumor has it.
Strongly rumored.
Rumor has it.
Yeah.
So, no, that is original hardware.
Okay. All right. Done and done.
Yeah.
All right. So, anything else you want to say on that topic?
No, I'm looking forward to this. I might go put some money down on Nintendo. Like, I might go buy some stocks.
Yeah, I mean, they will... well, okay, that can backfire on you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If, everybody's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, there's some weird twist that people think is stupid.
Yeah.
And then that could backfire on them,
Yeah.
But I do think if they just make a straightforward, more powerful...
Which sounds like what it's going to be.
Okay, so it's bigger, though. Do you think current, like, Joy-Cons will support it? Okay, what if the new Switch doesn't have detachable controllers anymore? What if it's just...
Then they're just moving away from the whole...
I mean, maybe there's still a way where you can connect your Joy-Cons wirelessly, but you can't, like, slide them on and off anymore and have that convenient, like...
But, are you suggesting that, like, you can't do the back and forth with, like, console versus handheld?
No, I'm still saying you can pick it up and play it handheld. But I'm just saying, now there's no more tabletop mode. Now there's no more detachable controllers.
Oh, yeah, okay,
It's just purely a handheld. Is that like disappointing for you?
I mean, they could be doing something better, you know? Like, it might be better.
Sure.
So, I
mean...
See, I don't do that. I'm not like you. I don't think that way.
I'm just analyzing maybe, you know, like...
if they did move away from, like, that, like, kind of setup and format...
Okay, how often do you
They would have to replace it with something.
Okay, so it's still... You can still make it portable.
Right.
That's still there.
Yeah.
Now, are you someone who uses the tabletop detached Joy-Con feature all that often?
I have, but rarely.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, sometimes if I'm like doing a long... Okay, it's been convenient when I've been gathering eggs in Scarlet and Violet and maybe I'm playing another game.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have the Joy-Con sitting next to me and I just tap the A button. I don't have the whole like switch balancing on the armrest of my chair.
Yeah.
I just have the Joy-Con, so I'm just like, all right, I've gathered all the eggs, back to my game, you know? When I'm like multitasking.
Sometimes holding it when I'm laying down,
it gets heavy.
It gets heavy.
Yeah.
And my hands get tired and like start getting numb.
So you just put a pillow on your bed.
I put it on my chest and play
because it's so light when you just have the Joy. It's like you're holding nothing practically.
And you can just stretch your arms out.
Yeah, you can be in all kinds of weird positions. Oh, then you start like thinking about how like you're holding your controller like
if you're holding it upside down,
I feel like if you don't think about it, you can still play just fine.
Yeah.
But if you start thinking about like your finger movements and you're like, how am I doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, it can kind of like the orientation can be a little weird.
And then when you need to use gyro for some reason, then it's like, okay, well now I have to slide them back on. I don't know, it'll be interesting to see if they move away from the detached controllers.
Do you think they will? Like if you had to bet?
If they do, I feel like they'll only do it if they feel they have the data to back up that people aren't using it that much. And there would have to be like some reason where they want to take advantage of the space that controllers provide to like extend the internals of the machine, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So you see reason.
I see potential reason why they might want to do that.
Okay.
I do also think it's likely... oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
You think it's likely that they're...
Oh, I think accessories from the Switch will all work on this new one. I think your Pro controllers are going to work. I think your Joy-Cons are going to work. Mm-hmm. They did that with the Wii and the Wii U.
Yeah.
I think they'll do that at least one more time. I do think there probably will be new controllers as well. One good reason not to move away from the detachable controllers is that think of all the people who buy Joy-Cons. And will buy Joy-Cons, a new pair every year.
I'm sure they make plenty of money off of like all the Joy-Cons they release.
Right. Oh yeah. People. I mean, I've bought 3 or 4 sets of Joy-Cons.
I want to if I had that kind of freaking money.
Unfortunately, they're expensive. Otherwise, I buy all of them.
Yeah. But shoot.
Okay. Well, let's think about this. As much as Joy-Cons have been complained about by people, they're also kind of pro-consumer. If your Joy-Cons fail, you just detach them and get new ones, and your console is fine.
Right.
But if the controllers don't detach anymore, and your buttons start breaking, your thumbstick is drifting, then you have to send the whole unit in for a repair.
Yeah.
So I guess the more that I think about it, I really don't want them to go back to non-removable controllers.
Here's another thought about like the name is Switch, right? And it kind of refers to, well, I mean,
the name is Switch now.
Part of the logo, part of the current logo is the click.
Right.
The click
two
sound.
Little
and the logo is literally the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
Detachable Joy-Cons. So if this is going to be the Switch 2, then you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, they could change the logo.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they could.
I mean, because the Switch idea is still...
Like, the detachable Joy-Cons is too much of a trademark to have a sequel console that bears the same name, which we don't know if it does.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
If it bears the same name, I think you're right. I think we're more likely to see the Joy-Con still be there.
Yeah.
There is still technically a switch from home console to portable console.
Yeah.
So the name would still apply. But if they do keep the Switch name, I think you're right. I think we are more likely to see the Joy-Con, or whatever they might be, the new controllers, Joy-Con Pros, whatever, Joy-Con Plus. Right. That's probably the more likely name for them.
Joy-Con 2.
But, the system itself is going to be bigger, so that might indicate that the rails are bigger too. Mm-hmm. So current Joy-Cons might not be compatible with, like, the new rails.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ways to work around that and still make them compatible.
Right. There could be 2 sets of rails. Or something
maybe
like that.
Detachable rails. I think that might get a little complex.
Yeah, no, I mean rails like one set inside the other set.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, there are multiple ways to probably solve that problem.
Yeah.
Just depends on what Nintendo wants to do. Now, at the same time, they probably want to sell
new... If we know anything about the way they think,
right,
which is really how you should approach trying to predict stuff.
Yeah.
We know that they want you to rebuy.
Yeah.
They've proven that for decades.
Because, if they just let you use all of your old controllers...
what are they going to sell?
Exactly. Yeah, they could give you a reason to want to buy the new ones.
Right. That's true.
But, if it's just, they're just bigger, people might be less likely. But they'll release new colors and whatever. Okay.
And people will buy that.
Yeah. Okay. We got to move on to our last story of the evening.
Yep.
Or whenever you might be listening to this podcast. Maybe it's the morning. And this is kind of a little off topic for us, but not entirely. Because it's related to Sony's anime streaming service, Crunchyroll. And they're completing their true final merger of the Crunchyroll and Funimation services. Mm-hmm. So we got to talk a little bit of backstory first before we get into what's actually happening here. So in 2020, Sony acquired the anime streaming service Crunchyroll. So basically just think of this as Netflix, but just for anime.
Right.
Anime movies, anime TV shows, just anime.
Right.
In 2021, Crunchyroll acquired Funimation. So this was essentially a competing anime streaming service on the same level as Crunchyroll. And so the two services have still coexisted as of right now.
Right.
But now that's ending. Come early April, Funimation is completely shutting down, and Crunchyroll will be the only major anime streaming service available in the US. Mm-hmm. Subscribers of Funimation are able to convert their existing subscription into a Crunchyroll subscription as long as they do so before a deadline, essentially. Right. So, okay, that's nice. From my understanding, a lot of things on Crunchyroll were also on Funimation and vice versa. Yeah. But there were still some exclusive things on one platform and not both, the other.
I'm sure.
So, doesn't seem that bad so far, right? Now, here's where the problem set in.
Yeah.
Now that Crunchyroll has eliminated the competition, the price of their subscription is going up almost 100%.
Yeah.
From $55 to $100 a year.
Almost doubling it, like basically doubling.
And that's only if you pay like the one-time payment. Right. I think if you subscribe monthly, you end up paying significantly more.
Continue.
Yeah, continue. Okay. And on Funimation, people were allowed to purchase and redeem like digital copy codes of like movies that they own physically that maybe came with the code, so then they can also own, I'm saying that with quotes, a digital copy of that movie.
Right.
And I like that. I wish, it would be nice if games came with a digital code along with the actual physical copy of the game.
Side note on that, dude, imagine if when we go to the Go Tour, if the Pokemon shirt has like a code where you can redeem it in the game and have the shirt in the game.
I think we get the shirt.
We do? Oh,
yeah,
sure. Okay.
Yeah, we get the in-game shirt, or we get the Fest shirt.
Okay.
In-game for free.
Okay.
Yeah.
They should
A
sell
scratch off code on the shirt.
just part of your receipt or something like that. You know,
yeah. I'm pretty sure they're gonna give us the shirt for free.
Okay.
There might even be like an alternate color that's only like available to us. Or something.
You reminded me of that,
Okay.
of that idea when you talked about movies coming with download codes.
Yes. Okay, so on Funimation, you could also own things digitally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, own in quotes here.
Yeah.
So you would think with Funimation rolling into Crunchyroll that those purchases are going to transfer over, right?
Right.
Okay, here's where you would be wrong.
Yeah, so this is the part I have the biggest problem with.
So everything you've purchased digitally on Funimation, you are losing it.
So what is the point of even rolling over your subscription if all of your library is gonna...
Well, okay, so Funimation, in addition to having like things you can buy, it's mostly used for like streaming new anime and anime that's already out there. So not all of it is necessarily... So imagine if Netflix also had like purchasable stuff that's maybe not available for streaming for free as part of your subscription,
Right.
but you had to like buy it separately to have access to it digitally streaming on. It's like Amazon Prime's a better one. They have their Prime free streaming TV shows that come included with your membership,
Right.
and then you have digital movies and TV shows that you can also purchase
Or rent.
rent as part of your account, and then you supposedly retain access to that.
Yeah.
You know, going forward in perpetuity.
Right.
Now, Amazon probably not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
Not in our lifetimes, maybe. I mean, you never know. But a smaller service like Crunchyroll and Funimation, they're more at risk of being purchased and bought up. Now, the consolidation has happened. Crunchyroll has won. Funimation has lost. If you invested into the Funimation ecosystem, you are the biggest loser.
Yeah.
The people at Funimation, the big wigs, they all got paid a bunch of money. They all got bought out.
Yeah.
They're laughing on their mega yachts.
Oh, yeah.
And
They don't care.
And you have nothing.
Yeah.
The hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars you purchased of digital goods
So,
are now evaporated.
So, yeah, this gets into like the discussion of ownership and what does that mean. Digital ownership is not the same thing as ownership. And this is why. Because you don't own it.
Yeah.
It can just be snatched from you and you no longer have access to it.
And this is a Sony company, guys.
Yeah.
You know what else is a Sony company?
PlayStation. Yeah.
You know, I have a little personal story. The first time I ever experienced this digital ownership erasure,
Yeah.
was with Google Play Music.
Yeah.
Google Play had like a digital music storefront, and I would buy albums and songs on there. And what's cool is they did have a way where you could actually download, like get your MP3s, like there were no restrictions. They were just real MP3 files.
So that's way better.
Yeah, because at least I could get my music before that service shut down.
Right.
But, there was a deadline. If I didn't do it by a certain deadline, all those purchases were gone.
Right.
Thankfully, I still have my music collection, the stuff that I bought there.
But they don't want you to even have that. They want streaming to be the way to do it.
Dude, to get the MP3s off of Google Play Music, it was kind of a convoluted process. You had to download some desktop app. You had to go dig in the files of the desktop app to get your MP3s out of it. I know iTunes was also that way.
Yeah.
It was more restricted than Google Play was, because at least Google Play gave you instructions on how to get your music.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember back when I had my iPod Shuffle back in 2004 or 5.
Yeah.
It was a very convoluted process to get my music, just the raw files for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's better than what these people are about to go through. And Sony is just tough luck.
Yeah.
Tony's not oh, we're gonna make this right, or we're gonna refund you. Okay, refund them, right?
Yeah, right.
You're erasing their service and forcing them to migrate to yours. At least give them their money back, right?
Right, or a portion of it,
or give them credit.
Or give them because there you go.
So
there you go. You're not losing any money. You're not paying out anything.
You paid $1,000 Okay, so now you have 10 years of Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like, at least give something back.
Yeah.
No, but they're just straight up, oh well, there's no recourse, there's nothing you can do. I mean, maybe we'll see a class action lawsuit spring out of this somehow, maybe.
It seems... This seems like a dumb move from an executive standpoint.
Yeah. Like, there's a way you could win this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not win it, like, 100% satisfaction.
Right.
But at least come out looking better than this.
Especially if it's a class action. Oh, I meant...
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I'm just meaning, like, like Sony had made a choice not to offer anything.
Yes. Yeah. They're...
So they look like bad guys.
I still don't understand why your library can't carry over. If Crunchyroll is absorbing Funimation, they're absorbing their entire firmware and everything, their whole system. Why can't they just...
Now, I don't know if Crunchyroll functions the same way that Funimation did, where you had streaming stuff and purchasable stuff.
A different model there.
Right, so maybe Crunchyroll we're like Netflix only. There are no separate purchases involved.
Right.
So maybe they're like, well, we don't have that functionality, so we're not going to make that functionality. So, sorry.
Yeah. It just... this is not good. And this does not bode well for the initiative that these big companies want with moving toward digital and streaming especially.
Yeah, and digital libraries are not the only victims as part of this Crunchyroll merger.
Yeah, here we go.
Unfortunately, you thought you were going to get away with not hearing about these for 1 week, but you were wrong.
Layoff.
So, yeah, last year, as Sony or Crunchyroll and Funimation were continuing to finalize this joint, partnership, not really a partnership, consolidation.
Yeah, let's call it what it is.
Who do you think got consolidated? Employees.
Yeah.
Crunchyroll let go of 85 employees, and they claimed they were just a redundancy. They weren't doing it to save money.
Right.
They're just redundant.
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't move them into, like, a different department or...
And, like, these were the people that worked at Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
Even, not the people that worked at Funimation.
Right.
So, I mean, even if your team wins, like, oh, you're on the Crunchyroll team and not the Funimation team.
Yeah. These consolidations...
You can still get fired.
These consolidations are evil.
Yeah.
And just not natural.
Bad for employees. Bad for consumers.
Yeah.
I mean, look at just the price hike alone. Right. Doubling the price of Crunchyroll. Oh, there's no competition anymore?
Yeah.
Great. Double the price.
It's just, yeah. That's anti-consumer.
Oh.
That's monopoly stuff.
Oh, they paid money for their purchases?
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
Like, so the reason Crunchyroll was $55 to begin with was because Funimation, they had to compete.
Yeah, Funimation was probably around the same exact price.
Right. Now, they have literally a monopoly. This is a monopoly.
Yeah, there is
no other service in North America that provides what these two companies provided.
Yep.
So they're free to do. They can charge you $1,000 if they want. Now, how many people will pay for that? I don't know, but
I mean, they've done the math that enough people are going to think $100 is still worth it.
Yeah.
They're probably. I mean, they probably won't. When I saw that it was $55, from like a executive perspective, I did kind of look at that. I was like, wow, that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, for a year.
For a year.
Yeah, it is.
And then when I saw they were doing 100, I'm sure they're like in their head, well, like, that's not unreasonable to ask.
No, it's not. For a year's worth of endless anime, that's pretty good.
But I mean, there's a fine line. People used to pirate everything, right?
Right.
And then streaming services made it easier. It was easier to pay a small fee, monthly or yearly, to just watch it whenever I want,
Yeah.
But then now there's so many streaming services, and they're all getting increasingly expensive.
Yeah.
I do wonder if people are going to be driven back to piracy, just because it's getting too expensive.
It's getting too expensive, and you have exclusives that you want to see on HBO Max, and you have exclusives that you want to see on the Disney Plus, and you have exclusives that you want to see on Apple TV, and Netflix, and Hulu.
Yeah,
and
do they really think everyone's going to subscribe
Right,
to
to
all
all of them?
6, 7 of these services?
Yeah.
Like, because the whole idea was to pay less and
I'm
get away from
surprised
cable.
like a third-party company hasn't like set up a deal where it's someone could buy like all a subscription to all of them for like a acutely discounted price.
Disney owns like Hulu
Right.
and ESPN, which has their own streaming service.
So Disney alone has 3 streaming services.
Yeah, so they do sell like a bundle where you save,
Yeah.
in quotes.
Right.
I am reminded though, of something kind of off topic but related, is Disney has started offering some of their Disney Plus exclusive shows in physical format. You can now pick up things like the Star Wars Mandalorian seasons.
Oh, really?
And some of the Marvel shows in either Blu-ray or 4K Blu-ray. No DVD,
Okay.
but Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. So that's, I don't know, I think that's pretty
Yeah,
that's good. I want to see more of that.
Absolutely.
This content should not be restricted to just these streaming
I want to see
platforms.
Netflix go in that direction because
Some Netflix shows have ended up on DVD.
Yeah.
Where you haven't seen any of that yet is Apple. Not a single Apple exclusive show has any physical media presence whatsoever.
Okay.
And they seem like they're never going to go
They
that route.
don't want. Yeah, they're not interested.
They're like the Microsoft of the streaming world.
Streaming and mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they could sell you a digital cell phone, they would.
Oh yeah.
A cloud cell phone.
No doubt. Like
just an empty box
Right.
and everything is done on the internet.
I don't know.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
A cloud phone.
Well, they have what are called soft phones, which are basically landlines, but
Okay.
it's on your computer. And
Okay.
You have a headset.
Okay.
You just
Yeah, that's what that is then.
Yeah.
Well, you got anything else you want to say?
end transmission.